I'll never forget the day my student, Daniel, walked into my classroom for the first time. He was small for his age, quiet, and always kept to himself. His clothes were always a little worn, his shoes scuffed, and his hands had the roughness of someone who worked hard outside of school. Despite this, there was something about him, an unspoken strength, a quiet determination that made me pay attention. Daniel was the son of a farmer. His father, Mr. Thompson, owned a small piece of land on the outskirts of town. Everyone knew the Thompsons. They were good people, hardworking but struggling to make ends meet. Some of the other students whispered about Daniel behind his back, calling him farm boy, and laughing at the dirt under his fingernails. He never responded. He just kept his head down and did his work. I could tell that Daniel was different. While other kids talked about video games and vacations, he never joined in. During recess, instead of playing, he would often sit under the big oak tree in the yard, reading an old, tattered book. When I asked him about it once, he told me it was his grandfather's favorite book on farming techniques. I remember the way his eyes lit up when he talked about his grandfather. He admired him deeply, and I could see that Daniel carried that respect in everything he did. One day, Daniel forgot to complete a homework assignment. It wasn't the first time. As his teacher, I had to enforce the rules, but I also knew that his situation was different. I pulled him aside after class and asked him why he hadn't done it. "I'm sorry, sir," he muttered, eyes fixed on the floor. "I had to help my dad with the farm. The crops needed watering, and my little sister was sick, so I had to take care of her too." I sighed, trying to stay firm. "Daniel, school is important. You can't keep skipping assignments." But before he could respond, another teacher, Mr. Edwards, walked in. He was strict, impatient, and had little sympathy for struggling students. When he saw Daniel standing in front of me, he asked what was going on. "He didn't do his homework again," I explained. Mr. Edwards crossed his arms and shook his head. "That's it. I've had enough of this. If he can't follow the rules, he doesn't belong here." Daniel's eyes widened. "Please, sir. No excuses," Mr. Edwards cut him off. "You're expelled. Maybe you should stick to farming." The words hit Daniel like a slap. His lips trembled, but he didn't cry. He just gave a small nod and walked out of the classroom, his shoulders slumped. I watched him go, feeling a deep sense of unease. Had we done the right thing? Couldn't there have been another way to handle this? The next morning, a luxury BMW pulled up in front of the school. It was sleek, black, and clearly expensive. The entire schoolyard fell silent. Students and teachers alike turned their heads, whispering in curiosity. A tall, elderly man stepped out. He was dressed in an elegant suit, his silver hair neatly combed back. He had an air of quiet authority, the kind that made people listen the moment he spoke. It was Daniel's grandfather. He walked through the hallways with purpose, finally stopping in front of the principal's office. The secretary stammered as she tried to speak, but he simply nodded and walked in. A few minutes later, the principal, Mr. Edwards, and a few other teachers, including me, were called into the office. The old man took a seat, folding his hands on the desk. "My name is Samuel Thompson," he said. "I am Daniel's grandfather." The principal nodded respectfully, but Mr. Edwards seemed impatient. "Sir, I understand your concern, but your grandson failed to meet the academic requirements." Mr. Thompson raised a hand, silencing him. "I understand that rules must be followed, but I also believe in fairness. Do you know who I am?" Mr. Edwards frowned. Well, no. I own Thompson Agricultural Industries. We supply produce to half the state. I built this company from the ground up, starting as a poor farm boy just like Daniel. And now, because of hard work and education, I run a multi-million-dollar business." He leaned forward. "And yet, my grandson is being told he is not worthy of an education simply because he helps his family?" Silence filled the room. Even Mr. Edwards had nothing to say. I am not here to ask for special treatment for my grandson, Mr. Thompson continued. I am here to remind you that every student deserves a chance. Some children don't have the privilege of focusing only on school. Some, like Daniel, must work harder than others. Expelling him for helping his family is not discipline, it's punishment for being born into struggle. The principal cleared his throat. Mr. Thompson, I assure you this will be reviewed. Daniel will be reinstated immediately. Mr. Thompson stood up and straightened his suit. Thank you. But understand this, my grandson will succeed, with or without this school. And when he does, I hope you remember the day you almost threw away a child's future because you didn't take the time to understand his struggles. With that, he turned and walked out, leaving everyone speechless. Daniel returned to school the next day. He didn't say much, but there was a quiet confidence in the way he carried himself. He wasn't just the farm boy anymore. He was the grandson of a man who had built an empire from nothing, a man who believed in him. And for the first time, Daniel started to believe in himself too. From that day on, Daniel changed. He worked even harder, but this time, not just on the farm. His grades improved, and he became one of the top students in the school. The same kids who used to laugh at him now looked up to him. Even Mr. Edwards, though he never admitted he was wrong, started treating Daniel with a little more respect. Years later, Daniel graduated with honors. He got a scholarship to study agricultural science at one of the top universities in the country. And when he finally returned to his hometown, it wasn't as a struggling farm boy, but as a successful young man with a vision to revolutionize farming in his community. Looking back, I realized that Daniel's grandfather didn't just fight for his grandson's education that day. He fought for every child who had ever been overlooked, every child who had ever been judged by their circumstances rather than their potential. And because of that, Daniel, and so many others like him, got a chance to prove that where you come from doesn't have to define where you're going. Hello, amazing viewer. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button, thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for more awesome content, and ring the notification bell so you never miss an update. I'd also love to hear your thoughts in the comments section below. Let me know what you think. And if you found this video helpful or entertaining, please share it with your friends and family. Your support means the world to me and helps this channel grow. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next one.